In this video tutorial, I'm going to teach you about profitability and liquidity. The two quite simple terms really. Profitability means how much of everything you take on the tills, how much of your turnover or your revenue, depending on the time period, is actual profit. So what percentage of everything you're taking can be classed as profit? So sometimes 20% of everything you're taking on the tills is actually a profit. So you're paying off your stock of like 80% or whatever. And then we've got liquidity, which means how quickly can you pay off your debts. So having liquid cash means you've got money that can immediately be taken out of your bank account to pay off any liabilities, any current liabilities. So it's really important to have a high level of liquidity because it means your business isn't going to go into massive amounts of debt and be fined on any of the liabilities they have because you can pay it off straight away. So to begin with, I'm going to look at doing something called the gross profit margin. And that's really simple. You just need to work out your gross profit. So how you do that is you get your turnover and you minus your cost of sales. So we've got £4,000 worth of turnover, money taken on the tills, and cost of sales is what we've spent on obviously getting the stock in as a business. We just take one away from the other and we end up with 2,000. So there's 2,000 gross profit. Out of that £4,000 taken on the tills, the business can keep £2,000. We want to express that as a percentage though. So we want this thing called the gross profit margin, which is really just a percentage way of representing how much of this revenue is actually being kept as gross profit. Now, it's quite obvious that it's 50%. So 4,000 divided by 2,000 is obviously going to be, it's 50%. And so what we do here is we take that £2,000, which is the gross profit, and we divide it by 4,000. So 2,000 divided by 4,000 equals 0.5. We just express that as a percentage, 50%. And that's pretty much all there is to it. You just got to divide the gross profit by the turnover, and you get your gross profit margin. Now, sometimes in exam questions that can be a larger or a smaller percentage. It all depends on the type of product being described. To do the net profit margin then, it's very similar. So remember, net profit is gross profit minus all the expenses for the business. So net profit is really what the business is left over with in total. So to do that, again, you just have to work out the gross profit. So 15,000. Oh, no, I've done that wrong. 15,000 of turnover minus 8,000 gives me 7,000. So the cost of sales were 8,000. I took that away from the 15,000 turnover. I'm left with £7,000. Okay, so that's the gross profit. But obviously we need to now take out the total expenses. So 7,000 minus 3,000. I'm not going to patronise you with this. It's pretty straightforward. It's 4,000. So we now have the business's net profit for that month. And what we do the same thing as we did with the gross profit. To work out the net profit margin, we take the net profit of 4,000 and we divide it by the turnover. So 4,000 divided by 15,000 is 26.6 or 0.2666, whatever. That's 26.6%. There, I've just rounded it. If you put it as 26.7%, that's fair enough. Because it is above 5, I guess, or 0.5 or whatever decimal fraction that is. But I've just put 26.6 for now. And that's how we express the net profit margin. So how much of all the business's turnover is actually going to turn into net profit, money we keep at the end of it. Notice obviously that's 26.6% and that's 50%. So there's a big difference. Now we're going to look at the next thing, which is ratios for liquidity. There's the current ratio and the liquid capital ratio. I should have done these the other way around, so I'm going to start with the current ratio. The current ratio is telling you what percentage or what proportion or what ratio of the money you have in your current assets against the current liabilities. So what do you have versus what do you owe? So for every pound's worth of debt, what do you actually own? What are your assets? How much are your assets worth for every pound of debt you owe? So it is expressed as a ratio. It's the current assets divided by current liabilities. So we've got current assets £2,500. So that's the money in your bank and the stock on your shelves, etc. We're going to divide that by 1,000, and that gives us 2.5. So we then express that as a ratio. We say for every 2.5 or £2.50 of current assets we have a pound worth of liabilities. So, or you could say it the other way around. Current liabilities, for every pound of current liabilities we owe, we have £2.50 of current assets. So we're quite confident we can pay our debts off with that, because we've got more than twice as much for every pound we owe. That's what current assets divided by current liabilities is. It's the current ratio. Now, the second one out of these two liquidity ratios, because that's also a liquidity ratio, is the liquid capital ratio. And some businesses might want to know this because they might want to know, out of their current assets, what is actually just money in the bank, or money that's coming into the bank very quickly. And what they do is they remove their inventory away from that figure. So imagine our total current assets are £6,000, but £2,000 worth of that is just stock on your shelves. It has not been converted quickly to money. It may take a couple of weeks to convert that to money, and we have £3,000 worth of debt to pay off. So we want to work out how much money we will have out of all our current assets that is just cash, right? Which is just something we can pay for straight away. I hope that makes sense. So we've got £6,000 worth of current assets, but £2,000 of that is just relates to stock on the shelves. And it may take a bit of time to turn that into actual cash that we can pay our liabilities off. So what we do here with the liquid capital ratio is we take our inventory away from our current assets. So 6,000 minus 2,000. All right, so that takes out from all of our current assets, just removes the stock on the shelves, and leaves us with £4,000, which I'm assuming is the money we've got in the bank. All right, and now we can divide that figure by the current liabilities. So 1.3. So 1.3 to 1. So for every pound of money we owe, every liability, every pound's worth of liabilities, we have 1.3 or £1.30 of cash available to pay straight away. And that, again, that figure would be a positive figure to have. It does mean you've got the cash available if you need to quickly pay off those liabilities. So there we go. That's how to do the liquid capital ratio. We take away the inventory from the current assets first, and then we divide whatever assets we've got left by the current liabilities. Very similar to the current ratio, but the current ratio doesn't differentiate between, out of your current assets, what is cash and what is inventory. So that 2,500, for all we know, there could be £1,000 worth of stock in that, and that could take longer to sell, which means we might not be able to raise the funds quickly enough to pay off each of those pounds worth of liabilities we have. So that's literally the difference between those two. And we express them as a ratio of whatever the figure you get on the calculator against 1. I hope that makes sense. Practice it in the revision pack that you've got and see if you can actually come up with some similar answers yourselves.